Namo Narayan, courageous yogis, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me for another week's free workshop. And today, the topic is one that is most dear and important to me. This is going right straight to the core of healing. And the subject today is Kundalini healing and the very real possibility of radical spiritual regeneration of the body and mind. By raising one's vibrations higher and higher through austere means, especially involving retention and sublimation of subtle energy, one can eventually draw down a much higher quantum of consciousness from its universal source, thus facilitating a radical spiritual awakening and complete physical revival as well. So first, the Kundalini is raised up through the spinal passage, piercing the 7 chakras and uniting with universal consciousness Shiva at the crown of the head. At this point, there's a total spiritual awakening, and one remembers their immortal truth as a spiritual being, not merely a human being. Then the unified spiritual consciousness begins its descent back down through the chakras in a process of total physical and psychological healing and transformation. It is this descent of Shiva Shakti after the full Kundalini ascension that brings total radical healing. It can even save your life. And in extreme cases, this is what we must resort to in the most extreme cases. In fact, that is exactly what Adi Shankaracharya did, the great reformer of the Sanatana Dharma in the 9th century. When he was faced with a grave illness that almost took his life, when he was on the brink of termination, of his life being terminated, he did not go to a physician or even to a medicine man or anything like that. He invoked the divine Shakti, his own spiritual power, and surrendered completely to that mother, which purified every cell and rejuvenated him in the process of this ascent and descent of the Kundalini. Not enough is spoken about the descent of Shiva and Shakti after the ascent of Kundalini. Once the ascent of Kundalini through the chakras is completed, then what comes next? The awakening is one thing, but then we become spiritual beings while living. In order to simplify this understanding, we will refer to the ascent of Kundalini as Shakti and the descent of Kundalini as simply Shiva. In this context, Shakti means the primordial power of energy, the energy behind all matter. She is the creatrix through which all life manifests. Like all life comes through the female, all life manifests through Shakti, through the creatrix. Without her, Shiva, consciousness, cannot even know that he exists. She is his mirror. Shiva is that universal principle of consciousness, which manifests through all sentient beings to the extent that they can contain it. It is said that Shiva sleeps in stones, stirs in plants, wakes in animals, and realizes himself in man. So, what then is this principle of Shiva consciousness? When we look at the brain, we can have one of 2 approaches regarding consciousness. Either the brain manufactures consciousness, or the brain is like an antenna that both receives and transmits consciousness. If we consider the second approach, then we can understand that consciousness, like gravity, manifests when the conditions are conducive. Therefore, it is not so much my consciousness nor your consciousness. There is just consciousness that we are all sharing individually. Therefore, we can understand consciousness to be synonymous with light Just as the light of a projector is distorted by the film in the reel, so too our psyches distort the light of pure universal consciousness into our own illusions of reality. The relationship between Shiva and Shakti is like the relationship between a seductive dancer and her audience, which in this case is only her immortally beloved companion, Lord Shiva. She dances to rouse Shiva from his meditation, so then creation can exist. As long as Shiva's eyes are closed and he's deep in meditation, then creation is only in a potential state, and it exists when consciousness opens its eyes. Energy and matter, the creatrix, Shakti, as she moves to the rhythms of her seductive dance, Shiva is roused from his samadhi, his deep meditation, and begins to open his eyes. He becomes so enthralled by her majestic beauty, then he opens a third eye with which he can see her more fully. This is the analogy of the dance of creation as nature evolves various forms of life that can harness the principle of consciousness to greater and greater extents, finally culminating in a human being, which can realize his or her potential most fully. You can realize that you are universal consciousness. You are the cosmos made conscious. Man completes the purpose for the universe to exist. From this perspective, we can say, why does the universe exist? So that it can experience and ultimately know itself. When we can transcend the finite, limited ego consciousness, then we can experience ourselves as the eternal life of the universe, eternal beingness. That is true immortality. And when you realize your true immortal nature, there is no more fear. So that same consciousness that you ultimately are is the same consciousness that I ultimately am as well. And it is the same consciousness that shines through all forms of life, both big and small. The nature of universal consciousness is pure bliss and joy. Just as heat and light are the effect of fire, so too bliss and joy are your own true nature. We don't have to achieve these things out there somewhere in the world. We just have to get out of our own way long enough to begin developing an awareness to that bliss, and then to allow that bliss and joy and ecstasy to heal and restore you permanently. So although this bliss and joy is your own true nature, we suffer again and again because of false identifications. We do not know who we really are, that immortal universal beingness that is at the substratum of all life everywhere. We suffer because we don't really know who we are. Because we identify with those things subject to change and which are impermanent. So in other words, yes, you have a body, but you are not your body. The body has changed every cell several times during your lifetime, yet at no time did you ever feel like you were inhabiting a different body, right? There has always been that inner you, that has always been you your whole life, that inner seer, that inner knower, the inner experiencer and enjoyer, which is at the very seat of I-ness. We know that we cannot be the mind either, for not only is the mind just a constant stream of change, but the mind is completely dormant during, for example, deep sleep, when there are not even any dreams. If you were your mind, then you could not survive the ego death experience that occurs every night during deepest sleep. So again, you have a mind, but you are not your mind. You have a mind, and your body and mind are both expressions of you, extensions of you, but you are not your body and you are not your mind. These things are subject to change and impermanent, therefore they cannot be that continuous inner self that has always been you throughout all forms of change, both externally and internally. Therefore, the object becomes or rather the obstacle. The obstacle is what this should say. I apologize. The obstacle becomes only a lack of awareness. That's it. It's really very easy, very simple to understand. Yes, enlightenment is very simple. It's so simple. It's just not easy. In order to begin the initial process of total spiritual metamorphosis, which not only is a radical change in identity, but which heals your entire body and psyche, to heal whatever you may need healing from, some extreme sickness, then science and technology says this is beyond our ability to heal. You can heal even that with Kundalini. That's why we're talking about this. Okay, because we can talk about using Yoga Nidra as therapy for psychosomatic illnesses, for anxiety, for insomnia, and that's fine. But what about the greatest threat to your health that you may ever have in your life? Are you just going to resign to that and give up? Or do you want to heal? Do you want to be well? There is another way, but it is on that level of spiritual healing. You must understand, let's look at this, instead of looking at this in so much with in terms of like God and religion, spirituality, I like to look at things on more of an energetic level, right? We can take away a lot of the symbolic bells and whistles if we just think about this on a purely energetic level, all right? Are you ready? You must conserve, guard, free up, unblock, increase, and amplify your own personal energy levels to such an extent that you attract more consciousness as a direct result. My favorite analogy is a torch or a flashlight. The light coming out will not be any stronger than what the electricity available in the batteries can supply, right? If you have bigger batteries, you will have a brighter torch. You'll have more light available. Agreed? Likewise, by conserving and building up your prana, your vital energy, you are increasing your own capacity to channel that universal consciousness, that Shiva principle, through your own nervous system. Now, with more consciousness, you have more wakefulness, more alertness, more awareness, more intelligence. You literally ascend to a higher plane of spiritual awareness, and with higher energy levels as well. This will actually is what creates the regeneration, the physical regeneration, and the physical healing. From an energetic level, bad health or low health is low energy or blocked energy, places where there's stagnant energy in the body, where energy is not flowing. So we have to liberate and unblock the trapped, stagnant energy. As a result of higher levels of prana, all the systems and functions of the body can now run optimally. Once the energy builds up to a peak, and this is the real thing, it's like the orgasm, right? It builds up and builds up and builds up, and then there's this explosion that happens. Similarly, there's a spiritual experience with this, where the Kundalini is building and building and building and building, and then it peaks and explodes, and there's this drawing down of Shiva, of spirit. As a result of higher energy levels, the energy built up to a peak, and the spiritual power of Shiva descends. Then the cellular rejuvenation occurs, as well as the repairing of damaged DNA. Even the whole body and mind are spiritualized, and one can even consciously direct their abundance of prana to other people for healing them as well. When the individual Shakti, your own personal prana Shakti, your own personal energy levels, builds up to a certain extent, then it activates the Mahashakti, the cosmic energy. This is similar to the process of fission, in which a strong surge of energy is redirected back at the nucleus of the atom, splitting the nucleus and unleashing the potential energy that was stored inside. So in other words, we all have a personal energy level. We all have a personal energy level, and then there's cosmic universal energy. And we can access that cosmic universal energy by increasing our own personal energy levels to a point that it creates this detonation or this fission-like experience. So we are also designed in a similar manner. What we call fission, nuclear fission, this is a principle. And we are designed in a similar manner. We can detonate our own potential spiritual power by building up our personal energy levels through right living, by harmonizing ourselves with nature's rhythms through yoga, daily exercising, eating fresh and in-season, non-processed whole foods that are full of life, and by observing the same amount of discipline that the sun displays in his own daily schedule. One of the biggest hurdles for some people is the sexual energy, which when depleted through undisciplined sex can leave us chronically energetically bankrupt. This not only prevents spiritual awakening, like what we're describing here, but it always being energetically bankrupt can be detrimental to our physical health on the long run. For this reason, we must learn some form of sex sublimation technique like Kriya Yoga, like Mahamudra, which redirects that sexual energy inwards and upwards, which nurtures the expansion of consciousness rather than leaving us on empty. By introverting sexual energy, you can quickly come to know a form of inner pleasure and bliss that far outweighs the lesser experience of the orgasm, which is mostly limited to only the genital region. However, through Kriya Yoga, you can eventually have this internal orgasm-like experience, which is the explosion of the bindu. We can explode the bindu. The bindu literally means the nucleus. And it erupts through your entire body, leaving you quaking and shaking with total bliss and ecstasy. It's 1,000,000 times more powerful. During these times, you are tapping into the fundamental vibration of creation, the pulsation of pure desire and pleasure that is there as the vibrational source of all energy and matter. Within the nucleus of every atom is that vibration, that tremor, that orgasmic tremor. In Sanskrit, it is called spandan, the sacred tremor. And when you tap into that, it is more powerful than 1,000,000 orgasms. But it is an internal experience that is the result of harnessing your own energy, redirecting it inwards, and surrendering to these waves of beauty exploding from the core of your heart. This is very important, not only for those interested in Tantra, but this is very important for conserving our energy levels. For basically, you can keep your sexuality. You don't have to become a monk, but we just have to learn how to have this disciplined introversion of desire, right? That should be the main thing. And what ends up happening is we have these incredible experiences of spandan, these internal heartgasms. And these experiences are incredibly healing. They flood your body with endorphins, and they allow you to transcend the ego mind and to experience some inner silence, even if only for a split second. And in that split second of total bliss and joy and serenity, you can experience your own true nature as perfect contentment, bliss, and joy. And all of this can be learned very easily. I've got all these courses on Udemy for you. But it requires an above average level of commitment and dedication for some time. Normally 2 to 3 or 5 or 7 or 12 or even 18 years for full Kundalini awakening. Of course, some people actually become liberated instantaneously upon initiation. It depends mostly on your own level of commitment and devotion. Not so much on how powerful your guru might be, or your preceptor, or whatever, wherever you got your mantra from. What's important is your own level of devotion and commitments. You only need to be thirsty for Shakti. Awakening Kundalini is easy. Don't believe what others tell you. Awakening Kundalini is easy. It's what we were designed to do. But staying the course for the full process of awakening and being able to handle the complete restructuring of your psyche and of your identity, this takes more than just an honest, sincere, and genuine aspirant. It takes a community. We cannot do this alone. We really need each other, not only as a support in the form of spiritual communities, but also we need each other actually to activate the Kundalini Shakti itself. This is a mysterious secret that not many people understand. Even Jesus needed John the Baptist to awaken his Kundalini before he could become Christ. And this is where we come to a hotly debated and oftentimes unliked or misunderstood topic, the Guru principle. Yes, it is true that the Guru principle is very prone to abuse. However, like most things in life, you draw to you the people that are on your own same level. There is a reason we are attracted to those people, which are ultimately a reflection of something that we are carrying within ourselves. However, during initiation, a spark is given in the form of a mantra, which ignites the inner fire within the heart of the initiate, opening up the heart, awakening the sleeping serpent of Shri Kundalini Shakti, and initiating the process of spiritual transformation, of total metamorphosis. The same spark is given to all during initiation. An adept practitioner, we can just understand, an adept practitioner is able to impart the subtle essence of the mantra because they themselves have received it from an adept practitioner and they practiced it and they unfolded the Shakti. An adept practitioner is one who has chanted the mantra enough times with devotion and sincerity to unfold the power that is stored within the mantra. And this mantra is coming down from an ancient lineage, and each master in the lineage is imbuing this mantra with their power. So it carries the power of the lineage. That's why it's so potent and it's so important to receive initiation. Without this guru principle, there's no lineages that last generations. We only have yoga and tantra and all of this because of the guru chela, the guru disciple relationship. Without that, it's all only academic armchair speculation. But these traditions have lived as a lineage, as a living lineage for generations, for centuries, for millennia, because of this principle that we're talking about now. So it is the mantra. Once you have unfolded the power latent in the mantra, then you can give it to other people as well. And it will awaken their Kundalini. You can awaken the Shakti of other people through your own efforts. That's it, really. There's no mystery to initiation. The mantra awakens the Shakti, but now you must practice some form of yoga, such as Kriya Yoga, or a combination of Hatha, Bhakti, Karma, and Gyan Yoga, to fan the flames and encourage the awakened Shakti to continue ascending through the Kula path, through the path in the spine, purifying your mind, purifying your psyche, purifying the karmic impressions. The ascending great serpent, Mahanaga, of Shri Kundalini Shakti is the most powerful force on earth. One must live a very pure lifestyle, focused on spirituality during this stage. It is like you're entering the cocoon of total spiritual metamorphosis, in which you come out actually physically transformed as well. And you can heal any poison, anything, any disease, whatever it might be. So one must live a very pure lifestyle focused on spirituality during this stage. If the flame is extinguished it can be very difficult to activate it again in this lifetime. Many things can activate Kundalini and also help you maintain the devotion to allow it to unfold and to draw down the spiritual consciousness of Shiva. We already mentioned yoga and initiation, like Shaktipat. But if you have intense devotion, for example, if you have intense devotion for Jesus, then praying in his name, asking the Holy Spirit to come to you, is a very effective way of awakening Kundalini. Perhaps you feel more devotion for Buddha or Maha-Avatar Babaji. That's fine. Whichever form of the divine that arouses the most faith, courage, and devotion is the one you should use. And this principle is called the Ishta Devata, your own personal chosen deity, your own personal chosen form of the divine. All forms of the divine are valid. It's just which one works best for you, which one helps you rouse the most faith and devotion. Kundalini. Kundalini healing can give you a new future greater than you ever imagined. Not only total physical healing, but you step into your spiritual identity and you are now awakened to your spiritual truth. You identify more as spirit, more as Shiva than you do as a limited mortal human being. A part of you already knows all of this and already knows the way to do this as well. Silence your mind and let your heart tell you exactly what you need. Believe it or not, we each chose to be here for all of this. We each have a role to play in the healing and transformation of society. It's not only the elite who make history, the masses also have a say. Today, we are talking about activating our own Kundalini Shakti, but by doing so, we are taking part in the mass spiritual awakening that is occurring today on planet Earth to redeem our societies and to heal the planet and her children, all species. Kundalini naturally awakens when the time is right. It is part of our blueprint. Really, all that we must do is not awaken Kundalini. After all, where's the switch? Really, what we must do is maintain the proper environment, maintain the conditions that are conducive for Kundalini awakening to occur spontaneously. Just like a farmer does not force his or her seedlings to grow, but merely maintains the proper conditions for growth to occur. And growth does occur spontaneously and naturally. Kundalini is the spirit of nature. She is a part of that force of nature that is actually guiding us back inwards to the source. So it has an intelligence of its own. It is intelligence. It's more like a goddess and less like some inner force or energy that we have to awaken and force through the spinal passage and force through the chakras and exert all this force. No, she's more like a goddess that we have to learn how to surrender to. And she'll tell you as you're ascending through the chakras what you need to do, what yogas are right for you, what meditations are right for you, what mantras are right for you, what pujas and sadhanas and verses to chant, as well as what are your obstacles at that level. Nobody knows better than you what your spiritual path needs to be. I can't tell you. You have to know. And you can know by learning to surrender the ego mind and listen to the Shakti as she awakens and dances in your heart. So we have to maintain the proper conditions for the Kundalini Shakti to awaken. That being said, we should not be complacent and hope for grace to land in our lap. We must live in a way that attracts the grace of God, which is another way of understanding Kundalini. Kundalini is synonymous with God's grace. Ask yourself, in what way would you need to live to attract God's grace? You may or you may not like God, But have you ever stopped and asked yourself if God likes you? Another way of thinking about Kundalini awakening is like inviting God to come live in your heart permanently. Then you live like your chosen deity is really there with you all the time. How would you live if Krishna or Rama or Jesus were always walking by your side? This is the way of devotion, bhakti yoga, and is very powerful for awakening Kundalini. In fact, many yogis have said you cannot awaken Kundalini without bhakti yoga. Other forms of yoga should be there, but devotion is the strongest means. There are, however, other means. You should formulate a sankalpa to awaken Kundalini and use it every time you do yoga nidra. It can be as simple as, I am awakening and unfolding Kundalini Shakti. You must use it on a daily basis and as often as possible. Print out your sankalpa and keep it posted around the house. Speak it to yourself when you wake up in the morning. Speak it over yourself when you are falling asleep at night. Kundalini is the way to eternal life. Without her, life promises only death. In fact, that is what is being conveyed in the symbolism of Kali Ma, standing over the corpse of Shiva. Kali is the awakened Kundalini, and Shiva is the body. Basically, what this symbolism here is telling you is that without Kundalini, this body is a mere corpse. We can have a second life. We can be born again. You can experience the eternal, and you can fuse your identity into the eternal and the immortal. We can have a second life and be born again by conserving prana and converting it into the spiritual light of Tejas Shakti through Kundalini healing. Tejas is the light of spiritual awareness that shines through the eyes and creates a halo effect in the aura. It is literally the light of spiritual consciousness. It is the subtle power, the subtle light of Tejas Shakti that fuels your level of consciousness and awareness. If you are interested more in this concept of converting prana into Tejas, this is the topic of tantric sexual alchemy. And I have a course already published on this at Udemy called Tantric Sexual Alchemy, if you're interested in learning more about that. As a result of conserving prana and living a yogic lifestyle, your Tejas Shakti, this brilliance, this light in the eyes and in the halo, becomes more brilliant. Light literally pours through your eyes. All of this spiritual technology was preserved for such a time as right now, when mankind is facing a greater threat than we could ever imagine. However, we must not give away our power to fear. Fear is rooted in ignorance of our immortal spiritual truth as one with the universe, as the universe. We are the universe made conscious. We are the universe in a physical body. We are one with Shiva. You are one with God, one with the universal consciousness that is all pervasive in the universe. We are immortal beings of pure light and cannot be harmed. But we only have these earthly bodies for some time. We came here during this time, right now, for a purpose. You have a purpose. There's a reason you chose to be born and to be living now, during this time in the history of planet Earth. By awakening to your spiritual identity, you can face these present challenges in the world and achieve your higher purpose and destiny for which you came here. The point is not to live forever. Nobody lives forever. The point of having a human body, to me, is to fulfill some spiritual purpose, some higher destiny, some objective that we have, whatever that may be. I cannot tell you what your spiritual purpose is. However, I am pretty sure about one thing. You've been on that path, and a part of you knows already what your spiritual purpose is. Also, it most certainly lies on the other side of that which you fear the most. So, in conclusion, I would like to say we can heal ourselves. You can awaken your dormant spiritual power and become one with the gods. You can fully wake up to your immortal self, to your eternal truth, which knows this body is only a mere vehicle to help you fulfill some higher purpose, your higher destiny. We can heal ourselves. This is one thing I really want you all to know. It's so true. We have so many ways of healing ourselves, with prana vidya, with mental healing, with Kundalini healing, with yoga nidra. We have so many ways we can heal ourselves, but you have to want healing. We can heal ourselves and reach our highest potential by utilizing these tools passed down through the ages for so many generations of monks and yogis and swamis. We can use yoga nidra, for example, to purify your psyche. That way you can sit for meditation more easily with fewer mental obstacles and disturbances and experience self-born bliss more consistently. You can use Mahamudra, Kriya Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga to rechannel sexual energy inwards towards the heart and towards the crown chakra. You could focus on your object of devotion with such intensity that you get lost in divine love, Bhakti. You can sing, you can chant, you can dance, you can do yoga sadhana, meditate, chant stotras, and do whatever it is that helps you to get into the spirit and to commune with the divine from within the peace and silence of your own calm and tranquil heart. Use whatever means necessary, whatever appeals to you, whatever agrees with your temperament and your constitution. And remember, the very earth is helping you. The very earth wants you to wake up and to remember your spiritual truth. As soon as you make the decision to awaken Kundalini Shakti and to seek God or union with the universe within your own self, then nature will actually start working with you and will actually start helping you rather than hindering you as before. Nature herself will send you the opportunities for your awakening once that sincere and genuine desire is made, that resolution, that determination has been found and acted upon from deep within you. The time is now. It's now, right now. This is why we came here. This is what we are here to do. With great love and respect, I thank you with all my heart. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Some questions from last week. Hari M. Sami said, I understand, his question is about visualization objects during Yoga Nidra. He says, I understand, or I don't know, maybe she, I understand these are used as triggers to bring out some suppressed memories. How do you, as instructors, decide which are the best objects to use for this purpose? So for Yoga Nidra instructors, for Yoga Nidra facilitators, I am offering another class on this topic coming up in the next couple of weeks. I will announce it next week, and I'll give those of you who show up for the live class, I'll give you guys a discount to take the Yoga Nidra teacher training course with me later in December, around middle of December. By the way, December 17th, I turned 40 years old. I'm currently living in the Dominican Republic, and that's why sometimes we have some bad connections, and it's a little bit hard for me. We start a little bit later because I'm having some connectivity issues. But I invite you to join me. We need each other. We cannot do this work alone. We are here in each other's lives for a reason to do this work, and this work is of the nature that it's very likely that we've been in each other's lives before, and we've helped each other in this greatest of all great works together before. But to answer this question, why do we include visualization objects that can trigger you, like unpleasant things that might trigger you? Well, first of all, we have to understand that what we might be carrying within us that we are repressing and not willing to look at and is bothering us, these are things that we are really not able to face, right? So we repress them. So how do we, as Yoga Nidra practitioners, navigate through these things? We have to let them come up. We have to let them come out, right? And so repressing doesn't work, so we have to face them. That's the basic idea here. So by naming something unpleasant, we want to see what kind of a reaction it might give you. The idea here is that, yeah, sure, these things might be negative. They might be bad. They might be ugly or unpleasant, but why do they affect you the way that they might? Why does it get under your skin? Why does it ruffle your feathers? That's what we have to look at. Yes, nobody wants to think about death or a burning body on a funeral pyre or a skeleton half buried in the sand or seeing a casket being lowered down into the earth in a cemetery. But we visualize these things in Yoga Nidra to see what it provokes, to see what it brings up, to see what we might be repressing, because death is a part of life. Death is part of life. Yes, it might be negative, might be unpleasant, but why does it affect you the way that it does? That's what we are trying to discover in Yoga Nidra. Now, how do we decide what to use? Thank you for asking this question, Hari M. Sami, because I have seen sometimes Yoga Nidra instructors, they go too fast, too soon with unpleasant, negative imagery. Let's just call it negative imagery to simplify. We want to go at a rate that is not going to be too jolting or too unpleasant for the listener, right? It should be balanced. It's not just all, fairy tales and unicorns and rainbows. We also want to face some of the skeletons in the closet, but we don't want to have it be so intense that we freak people out. So think of it like this. If you were to help somebody overcome a phobia, how would you do that in a series of Yoga Nidra sessions? In a series. By the way, my Firefox tab just crashed, so I have no idea if this is actually being broadcasted live or not. These are the kind of technical difficulties that I live with on a daily basis. I could just be talking to the wind right now and just releasing hot air, and nobody's actually hearing anything. But I'll continue with the hope that maybe this is actually getting through. But anyway, so if you were to help somebody with a phobia, let's take, for example, something easy like spider phobia, arachnophobia. Okay, so you bring them through visualization. So you've gone through body scan and breath component, and now you're in visualization, right? In visualization stage is where we're going to start to list different things that might provoke an abstract association, right? Where we're bringing up stuff from our own past and we're rehashing emotions and repressed thoughts and things like this, right? It's during the visualization stage that that's likely to happen. So in the visualization stage, let's say in session number 1, you're not going to visualize them holding a spider or having spiders on their body or walking through a spider web or anything like that. In session 1, maybe you just have them going on a hike and they're visualizing themselves in nature on a trail, and as they are maybe crossing over a footbridge or something, they look over on the other side and they see a big spider web. That's it for level 1. That's it. They just see a spider web. In level 2, maybe they see the spider web and they walk a little bit closer to it and they can see the spider. That's it. In session 3, maybe they get right up close to it. So they're like less than 6 feet away from it. And you can see how this is progressing. So eventually, maybe you actually do have them holding a spider in their hand in Yoga Nidra, but that's not until like level 5 or something like that, right? So you want to go at a gentle rate, at a gentle pace, but really the sky is the limit. You could have them visualizing themselves doing the tango with a giant spider, Or, I mean, you could have they're surrounded by spiders everywhere and they're not bothered. And it doesn't disturb them. And they have now transcended their arachnophobia because you have guided them through that piecemeal at a time, making it at first very simple, very easy, and then slowly, gradually making it more challenging. I hope that answers that question. For beginners, we should, maybe give no more than 2 or 3 very light negative visualizations. And for intermediate, maybe you can make a little bit more intense visualizations. For advanced, maybe they're seeing themselves burning on a funeral pyre. They're seeing their own body as if they had just died. They're now dead. There's my corpse. It's not somebody else's body. That's my body. It is now burning. It is now being reduced to ashes, returning to the elements. This kind of visualization can be rather disturbing for some people, and it is an advanced meditation because it's going to help you to identify what you're repressing. Why is it that you have a hard time looking at death? This is one of the reasons that we do death meditation. Finally, Dharma Vajra 4674 asked, can you offer any good alternatives to coffee? I feel as though this substance is interfering with how deeply I am able to comfortably relax into my yoga nidra practice. Okay, so you can, first of all, we can look at this from 2 different levels. I'll answer the first part of this first, which is, can you offer any good alternatives to coffee? And then I want to look more like the psychological components of this and how we can actually get to the root of our caffeine addiction with yoga nidra. So first of all, I don't drink coffee, but I do drink chai. And I really love Indian chai with cardamom and a little bit of ginger. And that's just the best for me. And yes, it has caffeine and it has white sugar. I don't drink it very often, maybe a couple times a month. But I would recommend to learn how to make something that you can substitute out white sugar, get away from white sugar, get away from caffeine also. Even if it just means supplementing with stevia, or something like this, which is very, very low. It's hypoglycemic. I don't think that's the right word. But there's a lot of alternatives we can use, and it's not so hard on our nervous system, right? So also, the more that we can drink anything that's more natural and unprocessed, the better. So even if you just have more and more water throughout the day, just increase your water and limit your coffee. You don't have to quit. If you remember Swami Shivananda, his advice was a little bit of everything is okay. As long as you have moderation in life, right? A little bit. You can do this a little bit. You can do that a little bit. You can do this and that, everything. Little bit. However, we can also go into yoga nidra and just become a detached witness and observer to see why are you responding this way? What is it then is at the root of this addiction? Why are you addicted to a stimulant, which is what caffeine is? The stimulant is overcompensating for something. Right? We are stimulating ourselves to compensate for not having X or not having Y. Right? If we think about it this way, instead of just saying that this is a negative behavior, instead of just thinking that this is a self-destructive habit, think of it as overcompensating for something in you. What is it that you're overcompensating for? And this can be with all addictions, no matter what it is, whether even not substances, even things like sex or food, or binge watching TV, all these things, they can be overcompensating for loneliness, overcompensating for low self-esteem, low self-worth, overcompensating for anxiety, for fear, for uncertainty, all sorts of things. And when we can go into Yoga Nidra with that sankalpa, with that objective, with that intention of knowing what is at the root of a certain issue, you'll be surprised at how much you can reveal. You'll be surprised at how much you can know and how much you can illumine and understand. Your ability to understand, your ability to problem solve is tremendously optimized in the state of Yoga Nidra. Try this. Instead of having coffee, do a short Yoga Nidra session first and then have coffee. And that would go for all addictions. If your addiction is alcohol, if your addiction is marijuana, if your addiction is whatever. Maybe not every time, but if you can just do this once a week, even, it's tremendously powerful. Once a week. Before you give in to your addiction, do a short Yoga Nidra session first, even if it's just 15, 20, 25 minutes, and ask yourself, what is at the root of this addiction? What am I possibly overcompensating for? What am I possibly not giving to myself that I'm trying to derive from this external substance, right? And in this way, I feel like this is a very realistic approach. I'm not telling you to quit cold turkey. If you were to quit cold turkey, you might not actually learn about what it is at the root of this issue, and it'll just go on and take another shape and go on and take another form. Maybe it won't be caffeine, maybe it'll be cigarettes, or maybe it'll be this or gambling or that or something else, right? So you've identified you have a habit. You have identified you have this negative tendency. So don't suppress it. Go to the root of it. Look at it. Don't repress it. Have the courage to face it. Stay with yourself in that moment and be loving with yourself. Be forgiving with yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself permission to be human. But now you can also have this intention to understand what is at the root of this behavior. So we know repressing doesn't work. So now we have to have the courage to face it. And it really works best when we can try to face it during Yoga Nidra or during Antarmona or during any kind of meditation. Because you're in that alpha state, the brain waves are a lot slower. You can think more clearly. You can problem solve. You can access deep intuition and insight much more easily in that state of Yoga Nidra. To keep yourself on track, write out a sankalpa. You can use a short-term sankalpa. I am revealing the root of my X addiction. I am understanding my coffee addiction. I am understanding my that addiction. I am revealing the source or the cause of my this addiction. And you will find the answers from within. Thank you, everybody, so much. I trust that this broadcast went through. I hope it did. And thank you, everybody, for your endless support and encouragement. Thank you to everybody who has used the super thanks button to give a financial contribution. That really goes a long ways for me, especially right now. And I look forward to this series. I look forward to answering any future questions that you may have. And you can also join in on the Zoom link if you want to. I tried to get started like 5 minutes early today. I was actually 3 minutes late just because software is running slow. But thank you again, everybody. I look forward to seeing you again next week with great love and respect. I thank you with all my heart. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om.